Before mental illness was somewhat understood, people who showed even the slightest sign of a mental problem were sent to an insane asylum. There they would often be subjected to horrendous tortures and miserable living conditions that often resulted in their deaths. And with the amount of illness, tragedy, torture and death that happened, it's no wonder that many asylums are said to be haunted. And here we have 5 of the creepiest and most haunted asylums in the world. The Trans-Allegheny Lunatic Asylum. Operating as a mental institution from 1864 until 1994, this asylum in western West Virginia, USA was originally built to house 250 mentally ill patients, but by the 1950s more than 2,600 unfortunate patients were held there. This was of course far more than the workers could care for, and as a result the hospital became an incredibly overcrowded and unpleasant place to be. The patients there were suffering from a variety of different medical conditions, from schizophrenia to dementia, and unfortunately many of them were subjected to terrible medical treatments in a misguided attempt to cure their minds. Shock therapy, water shock treatment, padded cells, solitary confinement and regular beatings are just a handful of things that took place at the asylum. Add this to the fact that thousands of patients died, and you can see why it's regarded as one of the most haunted asylums in America. Common paranormal experiences include hearing the sound of squeaking rolling trolleys throughout the hallways, and what sounds like screaming inmates yelling warnings from within the building. Full-body apparitions of patients, a nurse and a Civil War soldier believed to be called Jacob have also been witnessed by many. In 2008, the paranormal team Ghost Hunters visited the hospital to conduct an investigation, and this is what they managed to capture.
Who's that? Who's that?
You hear that?
Yeah, that sounded like a little kid.
And I decided that when we were walking through the Civil War area, that we'd put a digital recorder down on a windowsill.
You are kidding me.
Not kidding.
I know ghost hunters have been bashed for faking a lot of stuff, but that is still very strange. The Trans-Allegheny Lunatic Asylum was closed in 1994 after being deemed unusable due to its appalling conditions. It was purchased 13 years later and is now open to the public, with ghost tours and even overnight stays happening all year round. Whittingham Hospital was once the largest and regarded as the best mental institution in Britain, but by 1965 its legacy started to decline. Allegations began to rumour that the staff were mistreating patients, claims that patients were being fed mixed together leftover food, and the rumour that one patient was set on fire by 2 nurses was causing an uproar with the public. Due to this, the head nurse retired and the hospital was closed down in 1995. Ever since its closing, there has been a high level of paranormal activity, and many paranormal groups that visit say they get a terrible, dreaded feeling as if they are not welcome, and feel as though they're being watched. There are also reports of hearing unexplained moans and shouting throughout the asylum, believed to be former patients. A night nurse who worked there shared a few of his experiences of possible paranormal encounters during his career. He recalled a time that he was sitting up one night with a colleague at around 3 AM. They were both chatting and suddenly the other worker went very quiet and had a look of terror on her face. She said she'd seen a shape on the other nurse's shoulder before it vanished a few seconds later and was certain that something was stood behind him. Another time, the same worker was walking through a shortcut corridor between the wards. There were always stories about this particular corridor being haunted. That one time a girl had gone down and halfway through the lights mysteriously turned off. Whilst walking down there, the lights didn't go off, but the worker felt extremely uncomfortable, as if something or someone was watching him. And even though he is skeptical of the paranormal, he said he walked very quickly down that corridor. There's no denying Whittingham has a brutal past, and it seems that soon the asylum will be completely knocked down and replaced with homes. But just imagine living in a house knowing that it was once the place of the UK's most haunted mental institute. The Rolling Hills in New York was founded in 1827. It was originally a working farm but soon became a place to keep mentally ill people away from society. Widows, orphans, the elderly and even criminals were also kept there, and eventually the staff just could not keep up with the different needs of all the occupants. There are over 70